Hi everyone, my name is Josephine Edery, and today we are going to be learning a little bit more about ULABs. So what are they, what can we do, and we're also going to be looking at an interprofessional approach to the solution. In this presentation, we will define the problem, learn about the Philippine Recyclers Incorporation, learn about environmental and health risks caused by ULABs, explore 3 different perspectives. So we'll hear from a government contractor's perspective, an engineer's perspective, and a TSA support specialist. And lastly, we will compile all these perspectives to formulate a final approach to the problem. So what exactly are ULABs? ULABs, short for used lead acid batteries, are lead acid batteries that have reached the end of their life cycle and are ready for disposal. 86% of total global consumption of lead is for the production of lead acid batteries. These batteries are most commonly used to start the engine of motorized vehicles. You can also find these batteries storing energy generated by PV cells in solar systems and wind turbines. Lastly, you can commonly find these batteries used as backup power supplies. While these batteries prove to be useful, providing energy to a multitude of different sources, it is important to note that these batteries contain high levels of lead, and when recycled improperly, can lead to the emission of both lead and sulfuric acid, posing serious health risks. In the last slide, we briefly mentioned the recycling of ULABs. When the end of the life cycle is reached, these batteries enter the process. If recycled properly, the first 2 steps of this process require breaking apart the battery utilizing a hammer mill, and then separating the lead and heavy materials from the plastic. Once these materials have separated, each component goes through an individual process. This chart describes the recycling process of the plastic, lead, and sulfuric acid. The plastic is washed, remelted, and then molded to make an additional battery case. The lead, similar to the plastic, is also cleaned and remelted and then molded to create additional lead plates and battery pieces. Most commonly, the sulfuric acid is neutralized into water and then released into the public sewer system. Now that we have learned a bit more about the proper recycling process, let's learn about the situation in the Philippines. A small town called Marilao, located outside of Bulacan, is home to the Philippine Recyclers Incorporation, the country's largest lead battery recycler and smelter. While the facility is typically guarded, locals have broken into the facility to source the batteries and materials due to their high demand. Once sourced, these batteries are improperly recycled. The improper recycling process typically consists of breaking the batteries manually, which then leads to the dispersion of lead and sulfuric acid into the environment, leading to high levels of contamination in the local area due to waste and toxic spillage. Pictured here is the entry door to the PRI facility, sourced from Google Maps. As you can see, there are high walls to attempt to prevent locals from entering, but the facility is located on a busy side street. Now that we are aware of the contamination improper recycling can lead to, let's learn a bit more about the specific environmental and health risks associated with lead contact. Let's begin by assessing the environmental risks. The lead released leads to the contamination of soil and local groundwater. In Marilao, samples found substantial levels of lead in the soil, being 400 times over the health standard. Additionally, plant and wildlife is impacted. This contamination also impacts humans as food is cultivated within the contaminated soil and then consumed. Now let's look at the health risks. In adults, lead poisoning can lead to irritability, poor muscle coordination, nerve damage, hypertension, and vision and auditory problems. In children, lead poisoning can lead to brain damage and developmental disabilities, anemia, liver and kidney damage, hearing loss, hyperactivity, and in some cases, death. Given a brief background of ULABs, the recycling crisis, as well as associated health risks, a multidisciplinary team was compiled consisting of 3 individuals to gather feedback on potential solutions for the problem. The first individual we will be hearing from is Jackson. Jackson is a realty specialist working under the government in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. His job duties include managing government leases and drafting lease acquisition documents. When asked about strategies to reduce lead poisoning from ULABs, Jackson came up with these: creating a more organized system to recycle the batteries, Redesigning the batteries to ensure only strong equipment specifically designed for recycling could aid in the process. Implementing international climate laws to create responsibility for recycling plants in the event of a spread of contamination, and enforcing stronger security at the plants. The next individual we will be hearing from is Andrew. Andrew is a platform engineer working for a large technology company based out of China. His job duties include leveraging contemporary hybrid cloud skills and working with deployment teams to transition platform assets. When asked about strategies to reduce lead poisoning from ULABs, Andrew came up with these. Stronger responsibilities placed on companies recycling ULABs. ULABs should have a serial number to allow for tracking in the event of displacement. Building the batteries using less corrosive materials, so finding safer alternatives to lead-acid batteries. And designing batteries to present a label instructing on how to recycle and dispose of the product. The final individual we will be hearing from is Emily. Emily works for the Transportation Security Administration, also known as TSA, and she is a Tier 1 support specialist. Her job duties include overseeing personnel requests as well as repairing system fixes and enhancing current projects. When asked about strategies to reduce lead poisoning from ULABs, Emily came up with these. She believes stricter regulations on proper disposal of ULABs are necessary. Stiff penalties should be given to those found improperly recycling ULABs. Additional outlets should be built for disposal, and manufacturers can increase research exploring non-toxic alternatives to the current materials used. After each individual perspective was collected, viewpoints were assessed for common themes and responses. Andrew, Jackson, and Emily all proposed similar strategies to reach the goal of reducing lead poisoning, and 3 main strategies were compiled. The first strategy was the need for implementation of international laws regarding penalties if improper recycling of ULABs occurred. The second strategy included increasing further research conducted to finding less corrosive and harmful alternatives. Lastly, the third strategy required enforcing stronger regulations and guidelines placed on ULAB recycling centers. This meant enhancing security or including tracking for collected ULABs. Informal recycling of ULABs contributes to a pertinent public health issue, and strong interventions must be implemented to decrease the risk of contamination, stopping both lead poisoning in humans as well as harm to the environment. While banning is not a practical solution for the material we currently utilize in several aspects of our daily lives, efforts to increase regulations, penalties, and increase research can aid in minimizing the harmful effects, both in the Philippines as well as globally.